I found Why Didn't We Riot, a Black Man at Trumpland by Issac J. and published by Other Press to be, in a word, fascinating. Issac J. is an award-winning journalist as well as a professor. He lives in Trumpland in the South. I grew up in Trumpland in the North and fled. After my father died almost 5 years ago, I had no reason to return from the safe, multicultural urban hamlet where I have made my home. My experience as a white lesbian, even as someone who was young at the time when there was extreme homophobia, including lethal acts of violence, who had to flee from my working class origins, was quite different. Even as someone who sees the intersectionality of all, meaning that there are plenty of overlapping identities, I understand that if there was a hierarchy of oppression, that racism would be at the top. I found Why Didn't We Riot, a Black man in Trumpland, to be a brutal and honest look into the racist heart of America. Of course, the trauma of racism in America goes far deeper than the results of the 2016 presidential election. But the fact that Americans in 2016 voted in a way that allowed Donald Trump to be president and that they may do so again in 2024 is a major cause for concern. An old friend, also an escapee from Trumpland, drives across the country for work purposes and through small towns with sports signs reading Trump 24, take America back again. As he pointed out, the language that is being used is very aggressive. Bailey successfully makes a case that racism and the willingness to make a bully a winner and to emulate that bully and to echo his racist sentiments is at the root of the election of Trump. Lately, I've been thinking about trauma. I attended an online conference on the effects of trauma, and my ears perked up when I heard about the trauma experienced by marginal groups, including LGBTQ people. One of the speakers used a metaphor of a frog in the pot who doesn't feel the temperature of the water going up because it is getting hotter gradually. In my case, I was a frog and fortunately was able to get out of the pot before it was cooked entirely. I looked up lesbian and bisexual women and saw that we are more likely to die early from conditions related to obesity. In my case, I had a life-threatening medical emergency that scared me into slimming down to a healthy weight, which I achieved by switching to a plant-based diet. My point is that the health results of trauma are real. I knew that before, but just recently realized it on a personal level. I had some understanding of how trauma affects other marginalized groups. In this way, my compassion for others led to a greater understanding of myself. When I came across Bailey's writing about trauma, I read it several times, exhaling slowly as I let the reality of his writing sink in. As he writes, I've struggled, along with the rest of my family, for several months, watching Mama remain in a physical state just above vegetative after she endured a stroke and more hardships than I have. Struggled because I desperately wanted to talk to her again, seek her counsel, and because I'm afraid I'm headed for the same fate. Because I've learned that the body never forgets, that significant and persistent early trauma lingers in the body for decades, long after you've overcome the great odds you are supposed to be proud of having beaten. That's one of the reasons Black life expectancy is less than white life expectancy. Why Black people in their 50s and 60s are more prone to succumbing to chronic diseases than similarly situated white people. And maybe why I developed an autoimmune disease in my 40s. As it continues, persistent stress puts the body in a near constant state of emergency, making it difficult for the body to moderate itself, rendering people like me less capable of discerning the line between real and imagined threats. Racism kills, literally. Why Didn't We Riot? A Black Man in Trumpland by Issac J. Bailey, published by Other Press, is a must-read, particularly for white Americans open to knowing the lingering and living damage of history and how the results continue to live in this moment. This is Jan Mason with reviews for BookTube.